How many are providers? Okay. So we've all been waiting for the new rates to come out of Albany, out of Department of Health and OPW, and they were due July 1st. And this was the year where rates would get adjusted based on your spending from 2 years ago. Everyone's been waiting for that. And they promised to have it out before July 1. And what's today, September 20th? 21st? The current projection is mid-October. The problem is OPW has been spending at a faster rate than the division budget expected. So there's a big hole. And now they have to figure out how they're going to manage reducing the spending. They might end up looking at a regulation that currently exists under the Governor's Executive Order 38, which limits executive salaries, but also limits administration. But they've never implemented the administration part, which is capped at 15%. So that's just one thing they're looking at, the possibility. We're going to find out more on Monday when there's the next meeting with Provider Associations, OPW, and Department of Health. So hang on to your seat. Managed care, let me just throw this out there again. The Managed Care Initiative in New York State under OPWD, the New York Alliance for Innovation got a major grant from the Division of Budget to manage this for the providers, and they formed an organization called Managed Care Community of Practice. The website is MC-COP. The MC top. So mc-cop.com. You go on there, you can sign up for the mailing list, and it'll give you a schedule of all the webinars. It'll give you access to the previous webinars and previous in-person training. What threw us off recently was that they put out a memo, the commissioner put out a memo saying there's going to be training on billing for CFCO on the 24th. It's a webinar, September. And me and a bunch of other people said, well, wait a minute. What happened to all the other stuff we need to be trained on? Well, basically, we've been told, don't approach the managed care companies until we have this training. We're going to introduce you to them. We've been having discussions with them. And I wonder what happened. So they quickly scheduled 3 in-person sessions around the state. This is primarily for providers. Albany, October 15th, Rochester, October 17th, and New York City, October 29th. So there's going to be a session on the CFCO transition. And then the other half of the day is we're going to have the managed care providers in the room, have a meet and greet, get to know them, and then you'll start working on where? They haven't announced that yet. This is a nice one, but I think they're going to need a much bigger place. Website, mc-cop.com. It's an easy website to use. You can also go on to the New York Alliance's website and fish around in there, you'll find different initiatives. And Kay's looking at me saying, why are you promoting this other association? But we work very closely with them, and they're good. Let's see, the other big news. So the implementation of managed care, if you recall, what New York State wants to do is have the mainstream managed care, the specialized managed care implemented through provider-led organization. Called it SIPPL. Anyone remember what the SIP stands for? I don't. But about a year ago, they put out a draft of the rules for organization. So we first remember about the DISCOs were formed, and they were kind of like the pre-managed care, and then they became CCOs, and then on Long Island, we have They're the FIDA organization for dually eligible eligible. Pardon? PHP. So they're looking to like PHP and OCCOs who will apply to become the SIDDC, be like a specialized managerial organization, and then they will be contracting with existing providers. That's the ideal that everyone wants. So instead of using your typical managed care company who manages health right now. There's a new draft of the SIDDC coming out soon. We'll distribute it to everybody. And I guess I'll end that with just one other note. Those of you who have been around since the Wilbur days or even past that, when someone moves from one residence to another or from hospital or institutional setting, there's a whole due process that has to be followed, notification from different parties. The Vast Provider Association, OPW said, there's too much slacking going on. Due process hasn't been happening. And the answer is, well, the care coordinators, care managers are supposed to be doing that, but the care management system is still evolving. It's still new, a lot of new people. So I think existing providers have to help the care managers to remind them about the due process. Consumer Advisory Board and NHLS have picked up on that. So I think you have to kind of help each other out and make sure due process has happened. And any of you who've been around a while, you know how important that is. Any questions? Thank you. And Kay will be your next.
Thank you.
Okay, do we think we can get through committee reports in like 5 minutes, or should we have the presentation first and leave committee reports to the end? I'm going to make an executive decision. We're going to have the presentation because I told Sam and Matt that we would start at 10. So without further ado, we have Matthew Pavogel and Sam Watson from the New York City Emergency Management Office, presenting on the importance for people with disabilities to take additional steps to be prepared in an emergency, plan, gather supplies, and be informed. Welcome.
Do you think we need a microphone? No? Okay. Just, if anyone can't hear us, just raise your hand and we'll use it.
Thank you. So we have, my name is Matthew, this is Sam Lawson, we're from Emergency Management, as was mentioned.
Excuse me.
And we have
I think it would help if you did use a microphone because the camera would pick it up better.
Okay, sure. Better?
Thank you.
Okay, so we're from Emergency Management, as was mentioned, and so our basis of the presentation today, we conduct presentations throughout the city for emergency preparedness. Specifically, Sam and I, we present to organizations that assist people with disabilities. So this presentation is going to go through individual preparedness. Sam's going to talk a little about community preparedness. And first up, we're going to show a video, and then we'll talk about our office, how we assist people with disabilities, people with developmental disabilities, and all disabilities in general.
No, it's already.
Okay.
Not there, but I'll tell you where in a second.
Some days, it seems like things are just stacked against you. You know what I mean? This was one of those days. It had been one thing after another at work, and I was exhausted. And just as my service dog, Maggie, and I were getting ready to head home, my next-door neighbor texted to say there's a fire in our building. Everyone had to evacuate. I tried not to freak out, but everything I owned was in that apartment. Maggie sensed I was upset and came close to calm me down. She's a great comfort to me when I'm stressed, and it makes a huge difference. I began to look at what was on hand in my office to help me. All I found was a toothbrush, dog treats for Maggie, and a gluten-free energy bar, which I need because I have celiac disease. My purse had my ID and some medical information cards, but almost all of my critical documents and medical records were back at the house. The phone rang, and it was Crystal, who lives next to me. She's part of my network of friends and relatives who understand my disability, and she helps out in all kinds of situations. It was really good to hear her voice. Crystal is a real character. In the old days, she'd be called a worrywart. But that woman knows how to handle a crisis. I could hear sirens in the background, but Crystal was so calm. She really helped me settle down. Crystal wasn't sure what was happening to our building, but she'd been told to go to a reception center that was being set up by the city. She gave me the address and we agreed to meet there. She also suggested that I text my family to let them know what was going on. With my skimpy bag of supplies, Maggie and I headed out to learn if a reception center could help us with some of the stuff that we didn't have. I must have beaten Crystal there. I saw Arthur, who lives in my building. He seemed to know what was going on. I asked if he had any suggestions on facing a crisis with a service dog. He said the folks here would have good information for me. It was a pretty impressive scene. There were these volunteers from our neighborhood at every table. Some were checking people in, others were answering questions. One of them asked me if I needed help in a language other than English. The volunteers told me where to find accessible housing, what my transportation options were, and how to care for Maggie while we were at the reception center. I even saw people getting help in sign language. But I was beginning to worry about Crystal. It wasn't like her to be late. Maggie and I hadn't eaten dinner and I needed Crystal to pick up some dog food. I tried to give her a call, but my phone battery had died. I ate my energy bar and tried not to worry about where I'd get my next meal. After a volunteer found me some dog food, it began to sink in how this emergency caught me completely unprepared. I realized that they had really thought of critical things to help people in my situation. Crystal finally showed up. She had been busy supporting a lot of our neighbors who needed extra help and guidance. When one of them needed to charge his wheelchair, I was happy to make room at the charging station. With the help of the volunteers, Crystal, Maggie, and I reserved a hotel room not too far away. They also gave me the name of a restaurant that served gluten-free food. I was so hungry. We spent a long, anxious night away from home. But the following day, we were ecstatic to learn that our apartments were unaffected by the fire. Nearly losing my home really opened my eyes. My situation with decreased mobility and a service dog makes it even more important to be prepared for a crisis. Now I keep an emergency go bag packed both at home and work, and I make sure they're stocked with critical items like medications, documents, and phone chargers. And Crystal learned how she could help our neighborhood even further. She took the training to be a community emergency response team volunteer like the ones at the center. We had a scary experience, but because of the lessons I learned, today I'm feeling stronger and better able to handle whatever's around the next corner.
video is one of the new videos that we have for preparedness. So these videos were actually released last September, and we showed them at our disability symposium. So this video, goes over how the woman in the video, how she was not prepared. So I'm going to go through the talking points that we have for our guide, the My Emergency Plan. So I'm going to go through there's 3 sections that make the plan and the form. Sam's going to talk about gathering supplies, and then we're going to talk a little bit about community preparedness. So our office specifically, we're located in Brooklyn, but we work with all 5 boroughs of the city. And specifically what we do is we coordinate with other city agencies, so like the fire department, the police department, Department of Sanitation. So we're in constant communication with those other offices when emergencies happen. And also, people with disabilities, that's, definitely one thing we want to focus on specifically. If there's issues specifically, we want to work on that. And one of the main examples I always use for people with disabilities is Vision Cells Manor in Manhattan. There was an explosion nearby, and we work with the Red Cross to coordinate if anyone needed counseling. So we work with other nonprofits like the Red Cross, but also city agencies too. Also, like today, we do presentations. So Ready New York is our main campaign. We are part of the community preparedness unit. So we prepare all New Yorkers for emergencies, specifically disabilities, but also seniors, children, and all New Yorkers, people who speak English as a second language. So we want to educate all New Yorkers about preparedness. And then finally, we disseminate information. So information in this video showed a reception center. So we call most of these service centers and also shelters. It's providing information to the community that we're going to be opening centers, what services we're providing, and when those locations are going to be closed or demobilized. So we let the community know that. So through 301, through social media, and those are the 3 key areas that we usually talk about. But again, we're going to focus on preparedness for emergencies. So the video showed some of the things we're going to talk about. So first off, making a plan. So for making a plan for all New Yorkers, there's key things we want to include. So people with disabilities want to develop a support network. So for people with developmental disabilities or intellectual disabilities, maybe having a support network of other individuals that can be reached out to. The family members have children with disabilities, maybe reaching out to other families, other individuals. So when there is an actual emergency, they'll be prepared. Things you want to have included that we always mention is medication, having all the information written down. The guide specifically that you guys have today is a workbook where you can write out the plan. So such medications that someone is taking, prescription, the dosage, how often and when. Also in that guide too, we mentioned, again, support networks, so contacts, having 2 contacts in the city. Again, for those contacts, they want to, again, be in constant communication with the family or the individual who has a disability, because it's providing information like where they're going to evacuate, even providing a copy of keys. So if there's no way to communicate as a backup plan, which I'm going to mention a couple times, you may get sick of me saying backup plan, but it's really important to have a plan B, maybe plan C, especially if you have a disability. So having those things in support networks are really important. Having even serial numbers for, say, if there's someone has a communication device that they're using, having all the information written out beforehand, and also knowing where someone's going to evacuate to. So for myself, as you can see, I have a guide dog, and traveling here today, he doesn't really know the area of this building. So again, for other individuals that have either low blind or low vision or have developmental disabilities, it's really important to practice evacuation routes, have all that information written down beforehand. My dog, if he goes to a location once, he does not have an internal GPS in his brain, so he's going to get lost usually. I have to tell him where to go, and if I don't know where I'm going, he's not going to know where either. So that's why it's important to practice the evacuation routes beforehand. So the city specifically, I'm going to talk a little bit about, so in this video it showed a service center, but during coastal storms, we open hurricane evacuation centers. Those are throughout the city Department of Education buildings. The service centers, those are usually could be Department of Education, but might be other locations that we open. The main difference, service centers are for a fire, a building collapse, where a hurricane shelter is for specifically what it's saying, a hurricane, a place that someone can evacuate to. So the hurricane evacuation centers that we have throughout the city, those are going to open when a hurricane is possibly going to hit the city. So evacuating is extremely important for people with disabilities too, like I mentioned, knowing when, where, and how, where they're going to go. And also, if there's triggers for certain individuals who have disabilities, intellectual disabilities, knowing what those triggers are so they know how they can plan. If there's sirens, if there's certain things that they do not react well to, having that in mind beforehand, like how are they going to handle it, what should the family do, what the individual do before what the actual emergency may hit the city. So again, the hurricane evacuation zones, we have 6 zones throughout the city, and zones 1 and 2 are the lower lying areas. So in the actual My Emergency Plan, there's a map booklet that shows the evacuation zones and also evacuation centers. So right now, does anyone know when hurricane season starts? I think I heard one person say June 1st. And when does it end? Yep. So it's June 1st, November 30th, but New York City is most vulnerable August to October. So Hurricane Sandy was October, the end of October. Hurricane Joaquin, which barely missed the city a couple years ago, that was also in October. So that's when the city is most vulnerable to hurricanes specifically. But again, the season is pretty long, June and November. So those are things to think about as far as like how are you going to prepare, what you're going to have in place beforehand. So the hurricane evacuation centers, the shelters and evacuation centers, we have additional supplies for people with disabilities. In this video, it showed a couple of those items. So it showed charging stations. We have that for people who are using communication devices if they have difficulty communicating. Also for electric wheelchairs. We also give signage that gives priority to those individuals. So if someone says, oh, I need to charge my phone, it's not for them. So again, it's for durable medical equipment that needs to be charged. In addition to that too, we have quiet locations in the shelters. So for people with intellectual disabilities, if they're sensitive to light and noise, we have locations where they can go to try to calm themselves down. So we have that, and in addition, we have wheelchairs, walkers, canes, crutches, and also refrigerators for medication. So if someone leaves their home, they don't have their equipment, they can actually go to these locations and we'll offer that to them. So those are some of the things that we added to the shelters since Hurricane Sandy. In regards to transportation, also transportation, in this booklet, the My Emergency Plan, there's a location to write out transportation. So if Plan A is not working, let me go back. Coastal storm season, the transportation, the transit system specifically shuts down 6 to 8 hours beforehand on coastal storms. So you need to have your backup plan in place. Like if that does happen, what's my plan B going to be? Is it maybe someone, a family member or an individual that can help me with traveling? Maybe they have a disability parking permit or a way of getting to the individual quickly. Also, or maybe an accessible car, accessoride, or an accessible wheelchair vehicle. So those are things that, Plan B specifically. As a last resort, the city, we have a program called the Homebound Evacuation Operation. So this is for all disabilities. If someone has difficulty evacuating because of their disability, we have this program where an individual can call 311 and say they need assistance with transportation. And from there, they'll either be routed to accessoride or to emergency services. So it depends on the individual's needs. But they can call 311, and then from there, they will be transported to either a hospital or to an accessible evacuation center. So those are things that we provided for transportation. So again, we talked about having the support network, contacts, transportation, evacuating. All those things are extremely important. One thing that I didn't touch upon is also for all New Yorkers, but especially for people with disabilities, having a meeting place that's accessible. So if there is a fire or say if there is a hurricane, meeting your loved ones, that's something that's extremely important to have that in place. And also, one other thing I failed to mention is that we get this question a good amount that does the city have a registry for people with disabilities, which we do not. And specifically that's for reasons like liability, people just don't want to be put on a list, but also New Yorkers move around a lot, and the concern is that if fire department or police department would go out to a location, an individual may not be there. So Those are a couple things that we have gotten questions about. So usually we tell people to work with your local fire department, police department, to let them know that you have maybe a child who has a disability or a family member. So those are things that we usually include also. Sam is going to talk about the supplies.
One other thing that we wanted to mention was that the reason we were really excited to present here today is that we can do a presentation for any of your organizations. And so we're giving a very high-level presentation this morning, but we're happy to come to your organization and provide this presentation and answer the questions of the people you serve and talk to people's specific needs. We're always happy to come out to those presentations. So I'm going to talk about the supplies that one should have. So there's supplies that you keep in your house for when you stay there. This would be if there's a coastal storm and you have to stay at home, right? Or let's say there's a power outage and you have to be at home for days without power. And then there's supplies that you have for when you have to leave your house in a second. If there's a fire in your house and you had to leave immediately, would you have all the things that you needed right away? For most people, the answer is no, unless they have a go bag. So that's a backpack that you can carry that you keep by the door. I'm not going to go into everything that you should keep in a go bag. It's in the guide that we handed out. But some things that we like to mention would be important information. If you fill this out and then put it into the bag, then you have all the information that you need. Important documents is often what you most need after an emergency. One thing we would recommend is that OPWDD is now issuing identification cards to people with developmental disabilities that you can apply for on their website, and so that's a good thing to keep in the bag so that you don't have to worry about interacting with first responders. And also anything specific to a disability is what should be in a go bag. Anything that one would need. If someone needs a straw to drink, then that should be in your go bag. If you need batteries for electric powered equipment, or say use a hearing aid, you would want to have backups for anything that you need. We don't distribute go bags because we believe that everyone should have one that's individual to their own needs, and each person needs something different, especially a person with a disability. That goes the same for the supplies that you keep in your home. We used to say you should be able to stay in your home for 3 days. We now say 10 days. And we strongly encourage that, especially for people with disabilities, because we know that something like a snowstorm, maybe for a person without a disability, after a day or two they could leave, but someone with disability, especially a mobility disability, might have to stay for longer. And again, that would be having backup power if you use an electrically powered medical equipment. It would be keeping extras of anything you might need, and anything specific to a disability you would want to keep extras, again, so you can shelter in place for an extended period of time. We've seen that a lot. For example, power outages in Brooklyn recently that lasted for several days. That's the sort of emergency that you would be planning to have supplies for. Am I forgetting anything for supplies, Matt?
I mean, the supplies Sam mentioned, there's a list of supplies, the My Emergency Plan. Yeah, like I mentioned also for people with disabilities, the go bag is going to be individualized. Same for if someone is having to shelter at home, really thinking about like what their needs are specifically. If they have a disability, we do tell people to evacuate, but maybe sometimes because of disability they may not be able to. So, again, it's what their needs are. They know what they specifically need with their disability. So, those are things that we always tell the community. And supplies, Sam mentioned some of the supplies. For people who have certain disabilities, supplies are going to be a little different. Like Sam mentioned, hearing aids. Also having people who use a wheelchair having a tire deflator. people who are autistic having maybe music, headphones, things that can calm them during stressful times. So those are a couple additional things that, in addition to all the other supplies like a flashlight, extra batteries, bottled water, snacks, all those different things. Again, it's what your needs are specifically, and again, each family member is going to have a go bag. Also, if someone has a pet or a service animal, they're going to have a go bag too. Their go bag's going to be way more fun than individuals, probably. It's going to have, like dog treats and a blanket, maybe even a picture ID of a pet, because pets do get stressed and they can hide. So that's why we always tell people to have a picture of their pet in the go bag. So if it's a family of 4 and also pets, everyone's going to have a go bag. It seems a little crazy, but that's a lot of go bags, but it's important that each person and also the pets and service animals have it, because we have some supplies in our shelters, but again, we want people to bring supplies with them too. The shelters, we always talk about them being a lifeboat, not a cruise, so they're not that comfortable. But if you have your supplies, it will help you stay comfortable for that time period. Again, also, and for shelters, I didn't mention this, but to go to the supplies, but also the shelter itself, they are pet friendly, and they do take service animals. If someone has a therapy pet, I know the rules are different. Since I have a guide dog, I know the rules for guide dogs, and also for therapy animals. Again, if the rules being different, we're not going to ask during an emergency. If someone says I have a therapy animal, they have to stay with me, we're not going to question it. So those are the things in addition to having the supplies, but we're also going to be helpful in time of emergencies too. So the third section of the booklet is called Be Informed. So that section actually goes through programs that we have for individual preparedness, but also for organizations such as Notify NYC. Have you guys heard of Notify NYC? Has anyone signed up for it? That's a good number. We want everyone to be signed up for this program. 10 is good, but we want everyone that. All New Yorkers should be signed up for this program. It's individual messages sent to your cell phone, an email address, or landline. So for all New Yorkers, including people with disabilities, the messaging is inclusive. So for people who are deaf and hard of hearing, the messages are in American Sign Language. For people who are blind, low vision, the messages are in voiceover and other means. And for people with developmental disabilities, the language is in plain language. So we have all this information, we send through text message, a phone call, or an email address, and you can sign up for up to 5 zip codes. So if you're attending meetings here, and if you live in another location of Staten Island, or other location in the city, you can have different zip codes, up to 5, where it'll send those messages. So small messages like transportation, is delayed, to there might be a hurricane hitting the city or a heat wave. So those are a couple of things that, but those are some examples. But the messaging is tailored. You can actually pick the messages you want to sign up for. I don't need messages about driving or traffic. You don't want me driving, so I don't need that. So I'm not signed up for those messages. But I'm signed up for the other ones, such as, for me, I live on Long Island, so I take the train to Penn Station. So messages about if Penn Station is going to be closed or transportation is going to be delayed. So I have that information. So we have that, but in addition to that too, now we have an app, Notify NYC, through Apple and Android, where if you're even in a certain location, it'll track where you are and it'll give you information about emergencies in the area. So we have that app, and also the guide that's here, Ready NYC, we have an app for that also, which both apps are accessible for people with disabilities. So we have that, and then in addition to visual preparedness, messaging, organizational messaging, there's the advanced warning system. So the organization's working with clients that have disabilities. It's another way they can sign up and receive emails and other messages to alert their clients of the emergencies that are happening in the city. In addition to that also, we have a website called Plan Now NYC, and that is for additional emergencies such as explosions and active shooter. This website, it's nyc.gov/plannownyc. So we work with a lot of other organizations in the city, the MTA, police department, and there's messaging on there about those types of emergencies that we don't talk about as much, but they may talk more about it. So that's why we have that website, and it's a good place to get additional information. Finally, we have all of our guides here today in alternative formats. So we have them audio version on our website, but also accessible online and also in 13 different languages. So you go obviously throughout the community. There's many different languages spoken throughout the city, so that's something that we want to be cognizant of, and also have the guides, and they're accessible to all New Yorkers as far as on our website and through the guides that we have. So that's the 3 sections of my emergency plan. Sam, you're going to talk about more community preparedness, and then we'll take questions. Okay?
Really briefly, because I know that we're running short on time. The first thing I want to do is highlight an event that we're holding in Staten Island that we're really excited about. We do this every year, next Saturday, September 28th from 12 to 5. We are offering free admission at the Staten Island Children's Museum. And Ready Girl, our resident superhero, will be there with the NYPD horses, the FDNY Smokehouse. Parks will be there offering activities for children. There'll be a bounce house, free hot dogs, photo booth, a lot of different things, and kids can learn about emergency preparedness as well. Again, this is free on September 28th, and I'll leave these flyers in the back of the room. The other thing I wanted to mention was, so we've been talking about what you can do for your family. We know a lot of you are from organizations, and this coalition has a lot of organizations. We've just put out a guide called Community Emergency Planning Toolkit for community and faith-based networks, and we have a training that goes along with this that we would love to offer to this network. It's talking about how can a group of organizations work together during an emergency so that you know what resources are available on Staten Island. And again, we'd love to come back and offer that to you. I'll leave the guide with you, Chris. And basically, what we've found is how well our community responds to an emergency is based on how well everyone knows each other and how well everyone works together. Communities with a lot of resources sometimes don't respond as well because nobody knows each other or where to get things. And so this guide just walks you through a simple process of figuring out where all the resources are located and people's phone numbers so that you know who to talk to. And that's the end of our presentation. I think for now, is it okay if you leave a stack of your cards at the table so that you can just reach out to us to request presentations for the people you serve or your organization?
Yes, how does ham radio help in with your job?
How does ham radio help with our job?
Yeah. Does anybody monitor it in your office?
That's a great question. I don't know if anyone, so we have people who 24 hours a day monitor all of the radio frequencies of the NYPD and the FDNY.
Right.
I'm not sure if they monitor ham radios, but a lot of our volunteers in our CERT team, our Community Emergency Response Team, which you can find out about on our website and apply if you're interested, they use ham radios to speak to each other.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I don't have to ask that. I'm sorry.
You can reach out to us. Thank you.
Thank you again, Sam and Matt. We'll definitely be reaching out, take advantage of more of these trainings and powerful resources. I think when we experienced Sandy, a lot of us who, are working with people with developmental disabilities and on the spectrum, we really found ourselves trying to find out where to go or at a loss of where to go. So I was talking with one of Sam's colleagues from OEM, telling her about that experience and how can we better work together and coordinate. I think many of us just don't know how. We know what we want to do, we just don't know how to get there. So I'm hoping that they can help us out. Okay, so with that, let's go into committee reports and we'll start with Iris Adult Services.
Firstly, I wanted to say that.
You know what, Iris, would you mind coming up to the front and using the microphone? You really can't hear. I know. That's okay. We all want to hear your voice. Yes, please.
Good morning, everybody. So Jackie Tripodi, who was co-chair with me over the past years, has decided that it's not on.
Oh, it's not on. You want to come up here? Come on. I'll figure that out.
Just don't need to announce what it is. How's this? So again, good morning, everyone. Jackie Tripodi, who has been co-chair with me for the last 2 years, I believe, has some other endeavors that she's going to pursue. So she has chosen to step away from the committee. We have been looking for a new co-chair. And actually, I believe we now have a prospective one, which we will talk to Chris about and then announce to everyone. Due to not having two co-chairs and some other things that had taken place, we had an event scheduled to the beginning of November, which is our transition event. And we have postponed that right now. We will reschedule, and we're waiting also for the current list of people who are interested in joining adult services, combined with our previous list, and we will be reaching out and scheduling our first meeting of the year.
Thank you, Iris. Thank you. Okay, Advocacy Committee, Donna Wong or Barbara Devaney?
Hi, everyone. Barbara Devaney and I co-chair the Advocacy Committee. Barbara didn't want to speak, so that leaves me. Anyway, the Advocacy Committee coordinates our community breakfast, which we hold every year. We also coordinate a quarterly legislative information and exchange meeting whereby we sit with our local legislators and speak about the concerns and the needs that we have for our loved ones. We also engage and inform our governing agencies, OPWZD, as well as our legislators as to the needs and the concerns that we have. Over the summer, we had the opportunity to meet with the commissioner, and we sat with him and some of his staff to explain, what is going on in our world, and it seems that we have the same topics year after year after year. If you've attended our community breakfast, you will hear the same thing over and over because they're not getting resolved. And so here we go, here we go again, and we'll have the same topics once again. We all have our concerns and fears with managed care coming into play, and so we need to stay on top of everything. And aside from that, we co-chair an ad hoc committee, which is the Staten Island Developmental Disabilities Council will be celebrating our 50th year, and that's just such a monumental milestone of advocacy and inclusion in the community. And so to celebrate that, we are hosting a brunch, and it will be on November 1st, and it will be from 10:30 to 1:30. Invitations will be going out shortly. There are flyers on the back table. We encourage you to come and support the work that has been done at this council and continues to be done at the council. So please, join us, support what we do, and we hope to see you there. Okay, thank you.
Before everybody starts leaving, because I know we're getting close to 11 o'clock, next Wednesday, the 25th, we will be having an evening council meeting. Brian O'Donnell, the state director, State Director State Director of the Division of Quality Improvement Bureau Program Certification will be speaking and presenting an overview of rules and regulations surrounding from group homes, residential supports, to all other types of supports, and answering your questions. So that will be held at 7 p.m. Wednesday, September 25th, and it'll be at 9:30 Willowbrook Road, where we usually meet. And email reminders will go out. I just wanted to mention that. With that, do we have care management, Janet from the care management committee here? Okay, we don't. Community outreach, Pam or Melissa?
I am not a microphone person, but we, the community outreach committee met over the summer several times just to get a jump start on our outreach materials and places that we're going to outreach throughout the year. We have a very enthusiastic group this year, so I'm very excited. Last year we ended our membership with 159 members, which is very small. We really want to increase our membership. We did go through all of our sign-in sheets from all events that took place for the council, and there was actually 300 names on the sign-in sheet, but out of those 300 names, only 79 were members. So why am I telling you this? If you are not a member, that means you did not fill out the membership form, please see Marissa. Marissa can raise everyone. Marissa is our outreach coordinator. Please see her today, or at the end of today, or even go on our website to fill out the membership form so we have all of your contact information and you get all the information from us. What we're going to do this year, I know last year we started doing bring a friend or a flyer out. So what we're going to do, Pam, my co-chair, is going to hand out the flyers. Every time you bring a friend to a council meeting, you are going to get a raffle ticket. So we're going to have 3 drawings. Our first one will be November 15th, the second one February 25th, and the third one May 15th. So every time you bring a friend to the council meeting, you're going to enter the drawing, and we're going to have different baskets available for each drawing. We're going to be reaching out to different agencies to sponsor a basket, so then the whole community would be involved in this event. So we need your support, so go out, spread the word. Like everyone is saying, this is 50 years. That's huge. So we are one voice, and we all work together to get the job done, and we really need to work together. There's a lot of changes going on, and together we can make a difference. So please spread the word and join the Community Outreach Committee. We meet after all general council meetings. Thank you.
The Education Committee is meeting on Tuesday, October 8th, 2019, here in this building in the multi-purpose room at 9:30 a.m. Family Resource and Transition Fair, Jeannie?
Thank you. I don't need a microphone, so I have a loud enough voice. So I just wanted to say that the Family Transition Fair will be held on Friday, November 8th at the College of Staten Island in the Performing Arts Building. And we'll run from 9 to 1, have continental breakfast. Vendors will be able to set up from 8 o'clock on. And we are focusing in on the 50th anniversary of the Staten Island Disabilities Council, so we're going to have a wonderful presentation on that, from our beginning to where we are in the present. I can tell you that the registration forms will, if you have received them, which I don't think you have, they will be going out within the next week or so. I'd like to encourage you to fill out those forms as quickly as possible, because once again, we do have only limited space. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Family Support Services Advisory Council, Diane?
Hi, good morning. I don't need a mic either. My name is Diane. I chair Family Support along with Gail Deca and our statewide representative, Kathy Nowak. We meet every month. Our first meeting will be a morning meeting on October 24th. We welcome all parents, siblings, self-advocates to join our committee. At our meetings, we work with the state for developing and overseeing all supports and services for our loved ones. We put together at the end of the year last year, this new pamphlet, which describes all the different types of supports and services available. And we will continually update this, and I think there's a link on our website as well. So we meet every other month. This October will be in the morning, we serve breakfast. And November, our meeting will be in the evening on the 18th at Barrio's Restaurant. We serve wine and cheese at that meeting. So we hope to increase our membership this year. In addition to the food we serve, we also have a state representative at every one of our meetings to answer questions, which is helpful. And Kathy usually gives a statewide report with relevant information that comes down from Albany. She knows sometimes before state employees what's going on. So, thank you.
Thank you, Diane. COVID clinical services, I know Jane's not here, but I don't see Lorraine, right? Lorraine's not here. Okay, so they met a couple of days ago on Wednesday. They are talking about the status of the provider questionnaire, some of the obstacles they encountered, and the next steps. They're going to be working with group homes, I guess group home managers and directors. They'll be reaching out to agencies and to discuss issues related to changes in care coordination, and also some issues with getting delays in getting services at the medical facilities here on Staten Island. Their next meeting is scheduled for October 16th, 2019, 9:30 a.m. at the offices of PCCS, 150 Granite Avenue. Next is residential quality of life. Linda or Jason? Linda.
I probably don't need a mic either, but I'll calm down since this is not a lecture hall. Residential quality of life, Jason Haar is the director of residences at On Your Mark, so he's my co-chair. Last year we had a steady group of parents, some of whom were new to the residential situation, and we went through a lot of technical issues that regulate and manage the group homes. We don't have a plan for this year what we're going to do yet, but our first meeting is Friday, October 25th, over at the Connolly Center in the conference room. So we will brainstorm with whoever shows up and come up with a plan for the year. In June, we'll do our direct support professional awards. We know we'll do that, barring the unforeseen. Okay?
Linda, did you want to just mention the membership and guidelines?
Oh, membership and guidelines, you heard Melissa's spiel about get your membership applications in. I'm guilty of not filling mine out yet, but it will get done because where else would I be for the last 40-some years on Friday mornings? It's always so nice to have a Friday with no council meeting. So get that done, and we're aiming for as many members as possible because they've always said there are 7,000 kids with special needs in the Board of Ed. We know we have thousands of people living in group homes, and we know we have other thousands of people living with their parents still too late into their parents' lives because of how things go in this state. We want to be able to say at the breakfasts, at the events, when Donna and Barbara do their meetings with legislators, we want to be able to say we represent people with developmental disabilities on Staten Island. Because if we can't say that legitimately, our needs will never be met. And they've already backed off on meeting a lot of our residential needs so far, so we need to up those membership numbers to legitimately say we represent. Because otherwise, you're out there on your own, folks. And I've been in this long enough, because my son is 49, so I know what being out there on your own means. This is better. So get those membership names in. Thank you.
Thank you. Self-directed support, Steve?
So no one has ever accused me of needing a microphone. So I, with myself and Fidaya, who is in the back, we are the new co-chairs of the Self-Direction Committee. We're looking to have meetings every other month. Our first meeting will be in October. I do not have a date yet. We are working on that. Some of the topics that we're hoping to bring are supportive employment within self-direction, housing within self-direction. We're hoping to hear from families who are utilizing it, families who are interested in it. Everyone is welcome, agencies, families, brokers. So once I have that October date, I will be sending out a mass email to the email addresses I did receive from the previous chair. But if you're not on that email address, I know there is a list in the back that you can fill out, so I have that information and you'll be included in that email as well. You can also email me. I am DFI director at a very special place. If you have any topics that you think should be addressed or discussed, I would love to hear that as well. If you want to be emailed to the email address, you can email me that. So my email is dklein, so it's DKLEIN @avspny.org. And hopefully we'll see some of your faces in October.
Thank you, Dina. Angela, there are sign-up sheets in the back for each committee, right? So if you're interested in any of the committees, joining the committees, getting emails from the committees, please just sign up in the back. And Eric, Willowbrook Legacy Committee?
On November 4th, after having it with the college. What we've been doing so far is representatives of the Willowbrook Legacy met with the CSI Willowbrook Collaborative Team on Tuesday, November 4th. Let's see here. The finalized informational show CTV was completed last week, and we are having hopefully, most of you can come. There is going to be a reunion of the former Willowbrook employees, which will be on Sunday, September 29th from 2 to 6. Hopefully, most of you can make it. Hear what their stories are, hear how they survived Willowbrook, and each person will have a different story, and each person will have will have an experience to share about it. So please try to come, like I said. There's all different stories, and I'm sure the stories will touch you. So it's, again, the date is September 29th from 2 to 6, and it's at the flagship brewery. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I don't think we have any more committee reports. Are there any announcements? Yes. Come on. Can you use the mic if you want?
Good morning. I'm Mike Green with the College of Staten Island. We have a creative exchange program. We're going into our 42nd year. Certainly want to continue to extend invitations to any of you who want to refer students to our program. There are some applications in the back. I'll leave business cards. If you email me, I'll send you a copy of our registration form so you can complete it. A lot of people are coming on with all this transition. We're learning about the program for the first time, so certainly I need to get out there. And plus, we had to change our community location this year. We used to be out in Cottonville. We're now in Huguenot at the Reformed Church at Huguenot Park. That's 5474 Amboy Road. And if you want to join us, take my card, take an application, please sign up. We offer structured programming of an educational type across all levels of service. Really high functioning services through life skills, or just advanced courses in programming, It is programmed, but it's on the computers at CSI. And we also have classes where we will read to students who can't read and teach people how to read as well for this project. So we hope that you'll join us this year. I'll leave the cards back. Thank you.
Any other announcements? Okay, meeting is adjourned. Oh, wait, in the back. Come on up.
I'm pretty loud.
Okay.
Hi, my name's Caroline. I'm from YAI. We are running our Project Grow program, which is 2-hour workshops. We will come to your parent group and we will present there. Can do, will travel if you have a school group, if you have a group that's just running, supporting people. We will come to you to do presentations on a variety of different topics.
Oh, thank you. Anyone else? Yes.
I'm Melissa Wilcox from the Developmental Network, and I wanted to mention that we have got some funding for home accommodations, things like that. If you're interested in that, please contact Amy Rivera at ADAPT. And also, I'm trying to expand our ISS program. So if anybody's interested in the ISS program, we have
Thank you. And someone had their hand up in the back. Do you want to come up?
I just want to, no, I'm good. I just
Okay.
want to introduce myself. I'm Kevin from Congressman Max Rose's office, so I just wanted to let you know here, anything on the federal level, we're here to help, and also Masab from Assemblyman Charles Paul's office for any state issues, is also here too, so.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Well, for all the family support, I had to jump in. There are family support funds available for individuals that live at home with their family if they went to camp and you need help paying for camp. They are accepting applications. I work for the New York State Institute on Disabilities. I've gotten 5 applications so far this fiscal year. At the end of June, I got 75, and everybody had to be told we ran out of money. There's money now. Please encourage your families to submit the reimbursement applications for camp, for clothing, for goods and services that they need. We also have recreational opportunities for individuals to get out into the community, and we provide transportation, so families use our transportation to go to Manhattan. Please know that we are here. If you have any questions, we have our flyers back, or you can see them. Thank you.
Anyone else? Great, meeting is adjourned. Thank you. Don't forget to come Wednesday night to the